We are on the road to stand and deliver. And before we get there, we've got a roadblock, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. It's match card and predictions time. And I'll tell you what, I'm really excited for this show. Let's see the matches we've got for you in store today. We're going to be talking about Oba Femi versus Moose for the NXT Championship. NXT versus TNA, by the way. That's a dream match for you there. Moose being the X Division champion in TNA at present. And it's not the only TNA versus NXT match we've got. We've got the Hardy Boyz versus Fraxiom. Who is the best tag team in wrestling today? This one will be for the TNA Tag Team Championships. If you want a guaranteed title change, well, look no further. Giulia versus Stephanie Vaquer being built as one of the biggest matches in the women's division in NXT history. Champion versus champion, title for title. Giulia, of course, being the NXT Women's Champion, Stephanie Vaquer being the Women's North American Champion. We've got a good old-fashioned New York street fight, as this will be in the theatre of Madison Square Garden. Ethan Page versus Javon Evans. And last but not least, this is seen as the throw-together match for the show, but bloody hell, it's Roxanne Perez versus Jordynne Grace, two of the best women currently to do it. NXT, welcome to the video. What's a bloody card we've got here?
For just a normal Tuesday night in New York City, yeah, man, it's quite special. Like, this is the worst part about it, is like I'm expecting commercial breaks and everything. Dude, what a stacked card for a Tuesday night, man. Like, it's just a shame that we're going to get all the other crap that normally comes on a Tuesday night with NXT, like all the filler, all the commercial breaks, and just whatever. But it should be good.
I think it's going to be a blinder. I mean, for me, excitement levels. Look, 10. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to the show. It looks brilliant from top to bottom there. What match are you most looking forward to?
I mean, I don't know, because there isn't exactly one bad match on the card, really. You've got, like I said, Oba Femi versus Moose, which is kind of a dream match. You've got the tag team match, which is supposed to be otherwise really good. Jordynne Grace taking on Roxanne Perez. All pretty good, man.
It looks stacked from top to bottom. I think if I had to pick one, it's got to be the tag team match.
Steve, I'll be back in 2 seconds, mate.
Not a problem, dude. Not a problem. In the meantime, I'll just let everyone know, like I say, tag team wrestling at its finest with the boys here. And to be honest, like the thing for me that would actually make this just slightly better is if it would be for both tag team championships, because with it being one, you ask yourself the question, is it going to be, well, that means the Hardy Boyz are retaining, or will they do the unthinkable and will Fraxiom win the TNA Tag Team Championships? They've not been the strangers when it comes to TNA tapings as of recently. Of course, they've been there a few times. They've actually competed a few times on TNA as well, so it'll be interesting to see how things go. But while we are waiting for NXT to come back, we've got a comment that's coming nice and early from Aries. Says, how are we doing? We're doing very well, thank you very much. She says, do you think Dion Lennox and the Goons will get involved in the Oba Femi match since they targeted him at Vengeance Day? There is a chance that could happen, because I mean, these guys have been targeting NXT in general. I think Robert Stone's been a target. The building, I think, has been a target. It does have Retribution vibes so far, because they weren't involved at all this past week. But you would expect that they will get involved somewhere along the line. But yeah, I'm not too sure on this one if they will get involved here. Do you think that we'll get the new group involved on this show?
Well, Jonesy texted me today, because he texted me that the WWE have registered a trademark for the name The Culling as a faction name.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's probably going to be the NXT name for the faction. But he was like, oh, it could possibly be something to do with Aleister Black. Who knows? But, dude, why not? I mean, it's a normal TV show, and the thing is, we've got to remember is that normal TV stuff is bound to happen, but look, let's be honest, they've done nothing to impress me. So they had a half-decent intro. Yeah. The second week, they then attacked Robert Stone of all people, and it's kind of like, you're not making a statement by doing that at all. I think they had a better showing this week because they attacked someone else, and I can't remember who that person was. So yeah, it's still 50-50 at the minute, so they need to do something, because it's very sort of in the air about what they're going to do at the minute.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My daughter had a giant spider on the wall in her room, and I had to get rid of it.
That's fair enough. That's fair. if that was a roadblock between you and getting onto this stream, so yeah, it's certainly it's been fixed though, which is a good thing. C Nation Dogs in the house. Been a while, my friend. Good to see you in the house. Hope you're doing well. He's got his predictions out for the show as well. Looking forward to ours. We'll be diving into those in about 60 seconds time. Yeah, got a lot of crossover matches for this one. NXT NA in this one, and I think that's the thing of saying that we love it. We're looking forward to it deeply.
It's almost like a mini Worlds Collide.
And it does feel like that, doesn't it? The culling, not the calling, culling is the trademark that's been made. But let's dive in.
It's a music band.
Yes, let's dive into a prediction. Let's get into this. There's, I cannot wait. I cannot control my excitement any further. And of course, let's start off with a good old-fashioned New York street fight. Ethan Page versus Javon Evans. Been going since December. Of course, Ethan Page had lost his smile. He gained it back by taking away Javon Evans. Of course, Javon Evans had his jaw wide shut for 3 months, couldn't talk. And of course, when they had their match at Vengeance Day, he wasn't even cleared. That match was technically unsanctioned. Well, this one is a New York street fight. And usually, I think when we have something attached to street fight, that usually has a feel-good moment to it. So I'm just going to dive straight in with a prediction. I've got a funny feeling Javon Evans is winning this one.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, didn't Page win the last one that they just had at Vengeance Day? So yeah, I think it's about time Javon Evans gets one up on Hangman Page. I think for me though, with this being a street fight, I actually would like to see them go and fight on the streets of New York. I think it would be something new, something we haven't seen in a long time, where a fight actually ends up outside of an arena or a building. We actually get like an outside pinfall. I think it'd just be a lot more entertaining. I don't expect it to happen, but just would be something nice to see. That's a bit of a throwback to what they used to do.
Yeah, we've got fun. Do you know what? If that had been like the Manhattan Center, I would say there's a chance they could do something like that. Yeah. With it being MSG, I mean, the amount of traffic that's outside of that place, I don't know if that's a safe move to go for, but hey, you never know. And if, like you say, they're in the theatre as well, so maybe it's quicker, easier access to get out there. I'm not so sure, but we're both going for Javon Evans there to pick up the win. Do you reckon that this will actually potentially go to a rubber match, maybe for Stand and Deliver?
Well, this technically is the rubber match, isn't it? Because they had the initial fight. They've had then the one at Vengeance Day. I presume this is meant to be the rubber match. I don't know. It just depends on what they want to do with them both for Stand and Deliver. I mean, like, you could push this on to Stand and Deliver, I suppose. It depends on what they want to do with Page, if he's ready to go up to main roster or not. Who knows? It just seems like, I don't know, it's getting to the point now where, like, is it getting where if we do this match again, is it, well, we've seen this 3 or 4 times now, we're kind of past the point of beating a horse with a stick, beating a dead horse with a stick. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. But I want to see Page back in the title scene. You know, they've just brought Ricky Saints in. I don't understand why he's dropped out of that scene automatically, because Oba Femi's got no one at the minute. That's why I presume they're doing Moose at the minute.
Yeah, kind of makes sense, really. And all that ticks a lot of the boxes. Would be nice to see from Page back in there. However, if he does lose on the show, maybe that would put him further down the pecking order. But let's dive into the comments, and we'll see what everyone has got to say. See, let's just say that Javon Evans wins this. He has to get his win back. Sid in house, hope you're doing well. Sid says, "Are you happy with TNA wrestlers wrestling at Roadblock?" Extremely. I think that's the thing I'm most excited about with this show.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, it's just missing, like, do you know what I mean? When they eventually do a Worlds Collide, it'll be hopefully just as good, or like a proper pay-per-view show.
Absolutely, have to see how it goes. C Nation asking, will AEW Revolution predictions be tomorrow? I'm hoping so, CD. I'm hoping so, but Friday at the latest will be the predictions coming out for that show indeed. We've got Roy asking, are you happy to see the Hardy Boys in NXT? I mean, it's the same as seeing TNA wrestlers, but the Hardy Boys, I mean, it's an extra level of special. I mean, welcome home, Matt and Jeff.
Yeah, man. It's nice to see them back. It's kind of weird that the way they're being treated, like they're employed by WWE, like they've got merch on the WWE store. I find that weird, and they've not done that with any other TNA superstar so far.
Maybe it might change somewhere further down the line. Did you notice, by the way, they've WWE 2K25 released the DLC today? Abyss, former TNA wrestler, will be a part of the DLC. Of course, he is a producer backstage now for WWE, but his full-on gimmick will be in WWE 2K25.
Yeah, it's one of those things that they could have done for ages over the last few years, because they've like, he's been obviously working for ages. I mean, I looked at all the DLC packs today, and I'm always a bit hesitant about buying them because they normally release 5 and there's only like 1 or 2 good ones, and it's the same this year really. I mean, the initial, like, I'm very impressed that they've got like, the first pack is going to be Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, Motor City Machine Guns, Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer, and a celebrity guest who I don't know. But then you've got Abyss, Great Khali, and 3 NBA stars. Like, I don't. Yeah. That's just really random. I don't understand why you've done that. The third one is really good. New Jack, Jordynne Grace, Penta, Bull Nakano, and another celebrity. And then this is the one that irritates me. They've done an Attitude Era one where it's D'Lo Brown, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, Victoria, and Mark Henry. I'm pretty sure Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were already in the game last year. I don't understand why you take them out of the game and then make us pay to put them back in the game again. I think it's just a bit of a rip-off. And the last one is a very retro one. It's just Saturday Night Main Event pack. Jesse Ventura, Mr. Wonderful, Tito Santana, JYD, and Sid Justice, which, yeah, that's not a bad shot. But it's the same every year with them packs. There's always 2 or 3 really good ones and then 3 like questionable ones.
Absolutely. We have some American viewers. I'm hoping some NBA fans are here for us, because there's a guy from the Indiana Pacers that's like all over WBTV. Like, every opportunity they're in Indiana, he's probably going to be one of those that's definitely going to be in the game, I imagine. Maybe Jerome Bronson. I imagine
Travis Scott should probably be one. He should be one of the celebrity ones, that is.
He could be
like obviously one of the other packs.
Yeah, potentially. I have to wait and see.
But other NBA stars, I wouldn't know. I know of NBA. I know the only thing I know is like Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and like how big that trade is. Doncic going to the Lakers. That's all I know really when it comes to names.
Absolutely. Well, as I say, the Indiana Pacers star, whose name I forget at the moment, but he's like everywhere. He's been in NXT, SmackDown. He was at the Royal Rumble just recently. Also, Jalen Brunson from the New York Knicks was actually featured on the SmackDown last year as well. So you never know. It could be interesting. For me, I'm not personally happy with that. I prefer wrestlers. It's a wrestling game. Yeah. So yeah, I would personally prefer that. But yeah, I'm excited for about 2 of the packs. I do feel it's slightly underwhelming, the DLC this year. But yeah, that answers the question.
They did it a couple of years ago with Candice LeRae. Not Candice LeRae, Casey Catanzaro. She was DLC 1 year. She was in the game in the second year. The third year, they took her out and put her back as DLC again. And I just find it a con because she's already in the game. And I just think it's a rip-off that they do that. And I think it's taking the mick out of fans, like video game fans and wrestling fans.
Certainly feels that way indeed. C Nation asking if Oba Femi is a babyface. I'd say a tweener at this stage.
I would say babyface, man. Like, there's no one that doesn't like him at the minute. He's so over. His entrance has got him over already. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I think it's a case of he's meant to be the babyface in this scenario because Moose is meant to be the bad guy.
Yeah, Moose is meant to be the bad guy indeed for this one. Of course, he's invading, trying to take NXT's top championship. Aries says, what are your thoughts on Shawn Spears and Izzy Dane to the little faction? I thought it was cool with the storytelling they did with the D'Angelo family and turning on them. And of course, with one step further, Shawn Spears becoming the brand new North American champion last night on NXT. I think the storyline's working pretty well. That stable is a lot of misfits together, but they seem to be making it work. And you've got to be pleased for Shawn Spears. He's won a title.
Yeah,
it's been great since coming back.
It's something to keep Shawn Spears relevant because, like, it's something he's kind of lacked the whole time. Like, when he was initially Ty Dillinger, it was all about his entrance and nothing really else. He never really had anything of significance that I can remember. Then when he came into AEW, he was significant for about 5 minutes, and it's just a case of waiting for him to wait for them to put a title on him. Now he's got one. He now has to put on a display and keep hold of the thing, more importantly.
Certainly does indeed. And Pierre is in the house as well. Says, gotta say, hated the idea of both women's championships being on the line and, of course, having a double women's champion. Well, Pierre, you're a master of timing, my friend, because it's time to go into our second match, which you probably guessed what one we're going to dive into. Title for title, champion versus champion. Giulia, the NXT Women's Champion, going against Stephanie Vaquer, the NXT Women's North American Champion, who is going to be walking away. This is a dream match, arguably, and it's been billed as one of the biggest matches in NXT history for the women's division. NXT, right, I'm going to come to you and say that have there been rumours or things not tickling around on the internet about one of these two being potentially a bit injured and needing some time off? Do you think this match would have been saved for arguably a bigger stage?
Yeah, I think they'd have given them both the chance to have prolonged runs with both their championships, unfortunately. But I don't understand why they've rushed this. It's almost like... So I pretty much have a betting on who's injured, and like it will go with my prediction. But like, if that was the case, why put the championship on them? Or better yet, why have... Do you know what I mean? So, say for instance, it's Giulia that's injured. Why have her win that NXT Championship? Why not have Stephanie win it? And then if it's Stephanie, why have her win the North American Championship? Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't... It's either something they really didn't learn about till the very last minute, or it's just something that they just completely thought, oh no, we'll just rush it and do this match. I'm not complaining. I think this is probably going to be one of the best women's NXT matches we're probably ever going to see, because they both have a great in-ring style, and sure, they could have done with a bigger build to it because it was kind of just thrown together, but I'm not going to complain.
No, I'm not going to complain that the fact we're getting the match. I think the match is going to be awesome when we see it. It's there are just a few rumors knocking about. Doesn't mean that necessarily they are true. But one thing we do know for sure as well, Jada Parker said she will be watching. Is there a chance that she is the reason that perhaps maybe neither person loses their title next Tuesday?
I mean, possibly. If they don't want one of them to lose, it can be a case of whoever the injured star is meant to be, they get taken out and are forced to relinquish their title so they can go off and heal from their injury. So there is that possibility.
There is that possibility. Do you think that's a better way to go, or do you think now they've done this match, it's better to do a double champion?
It depends if this match main events. I know it's just a normal NXT Tuesday show, but it's like if this was a pay-per-view and that happened in a main event, you'd be pretty annoyed. Because it's the TV show, you can get away with it in some aspects, but I think if they're gonna do it, don't have this match main event.
Yeah, I can understand that entirely. I hope that this is some sort of angle that leads to an injury, but I think it's going to be a double champion walking away here, and I think that person will be competing not once but twice at Stand and Deliver. I think it's time for us to both give our prediction. Who do you see walking away with both the NXT Women's Championship and North American Championship?
I mean, so obviously the internet rumors are out there, but I'm going to go with Stephanie Vaquer just on the basis that she wrestled a week ago. And I think if you're injured, you're not going to wrestle a week ago. So I think it's Giulia that most likely is the one that's injured. And if they are going to have someone be a double champion, I think it's going to be Stephanie Vaquer.
I completely 100% agree with you. And one thing I've noticed as well recently, Stephanie Vaquer is doing quite a bit of media at the minute. I think she was on Busted Open today as well. And it just feels, I don't know, the profile of her is being raised more and more recently, where it felt like Giulia was being pushed as the one from NXT at the start. It's calmed down in the last couple of weeks, and I think Vaquer has been pushed more to the forefront.
I think because she's been injured, if it is Giulia that's meant to be injured, where she hasn't wrestled as much, I think this is where Stephanie Vaquer has grown in that aspect, as we've seen a lot more of her in ring. And I mean, dude, I personally, Stephanie Vaquer is my number one NXT women's wrestler at the minute. Her presentation is great. Her in-ring style is great. I love everything about Stephanie Vaquer. She's easily getting up there as one of my top 2 or 3 wrestlers in WWE in a minute.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think as well, like you say, presentation in ring as well. It's just a wow factor. It comes with Stephanie Vaquer. She's fantastic in ring. I just feel like she's someone that's not going to be denied. Giulia, of course, has got the presentation that's going with her as well, some star power as well. I think both are going to be women's champions. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a headliner of WrestleMania at some point in a few years down the line. But yeah, I think on this night, I think Stephanie Vaquer walks away as double champion. Anything more you'd like to add, or should we drop into the comments?
No, man, let's go for it.
Let's drop into the comments then. CD agrees with us. Stephanie Vaquer will be a double champion. And Ray's in the house, thank you for joining us, Ray, said apparently Carmella said she was ghosted by WWE, was that she's being punished for having a baby while she was released from WWE. Ouch.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a minute here, and hear me out. This is nothing against Carmella, but if you're getting paid a substantial amount of money to do a job, and you're not currently doing that job, they have no reason to pay you. There is very few women in the world that can get paid for not doing their job. And if you are unable to do your job, which in her case is be a pro wrestler and be on TV, why should you be paid? Why should you be paid to not be on TV? Like, she's just had 2 years of not being paid. Once she's then capable or happy or willing to get back in the ring, sure, by all means, WWE should go back in and speak to her. But I don't understand why people think they should be paid for not doing their job. I don't think it's necessarily a case of ghosting. I'm just, from a business point of view, I don't know any business that would pay someone not to do their job. Do you know what I mean?
To my understanding, her contract expired. Is this correct? She's not been released. So the contract expired. They didn't read
the contract's expired. Just like Becky's did. Becky hasn't signed a new contract.
And they wanted Becky to. I mean, she came back as well. The thing is, ultimately, people want to go out and have families, and I support that, obviously. We're both family men, for example. So we know what goes, the ins and outs of all of that. The thing is, ultimately, I don't know Carmella. I don't know the situation. However, she hasn't returned to the ring since then. And like you said, the contract's expired. If there's no intention to return to the ring anytime soon, then you wouldn't be surprised that WWE has not renewed the contract. However, with Ghosted, that's something that only her and WWE will know.
Yeah, exactly.
We won't know that.
But that's what I mean. If in 2 months' time she's ready to get back in the ring, WWE should be straight on the phone to her. She's great personality, great character work. She's a good in-ring worker as well. We sat there years ago when you look at Enzo Amore and Big Cass and Carmella, and you were like, of all those three, Carmella being the only one that was still employed by the company, she is fantastic. And it's just like I said, it's a case of no company, no job I've ever worked for would pay me to sit at home for 2 years. And I'm sorry, you are getting paid a lot of money.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not from what you said earlier on. Absolutely, from what you've said earlier on, it's not class for the fact of gender or anything like that. We wouldn't either. You need to say who you are.
No one.
If you don't do your job for 2 years, you're probably not going to be kept around. So yeah, exactly. I understand that. Totally understand that. But yeah, interesting comment, Ray. Thank you for bringing it up to us. And NXT, well said. We'll move on in the meantime then. And we spoke about title for title, obviously. So Stephanie Vaquer, we reckon, will walk away as a double champion. Could one of these two be the next number one contender? Or either championship? Roxanne Perez versus Jordynne Grace. This is a rematch from Battleground last year. Now, of course, Roxanne Perez won that match. Don't want to say it was completely a clean victory. There was a little bit of shade in it. And Jordynne Grace wants to get her W back. Obviously, there was a match on NXT this past week as well with Jordynne Grace and Cora Jade. This match had to be stopped, obviously, because Cora Jade seemed, the dreaded X sign went up and looked like they were checking. I don't know what the situation was there with Cora Jade at the time there, because I've only watched it about an hour ago. But it didn't look good either way. But fingers crossed she'll make a speedy recovery. She was due to have a match at Sacrifice for the TNA Knockouts Championship next week. So we'll see what happens with that. But Roxanne Perez, though, did attack Jordynne Grace backstage with a steel chair. Two of the best women's wrestlers out there in a thrown together rematch here. Looking forward to it. I do feel, though, the prediction should be fairly straightforward for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. It's just a case of what they're planning on doing with Roxanne Perez, what card she's going to be fighting on come WrestleMania weekend, whether she's going to be on the main roster at WrestleMania or whether she's going to be on Stand and Deliver. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, Roxanne's future looks to be Bayley at present, so I don't see her going for either of those women's championships. Although I think a match with Stephanie Vaquer certainly should happen before she leaves NXT completely. But I think Jordynne Grace picks up the win here. She's going to align herself in position to go for one or both of those championships, and she's only just shown up in NXT, but looks like she will be probably cutting the line a little bit. So maybe Jordynne Grace going for the women's championship, and then perhaps Jada Parker going for the women's North American championship, and Vaquer, we'll see what she does on Stand and Deliver.
The only problem I think is they won't have the core wrestle twice at Stand and Deliver. I reckon one of them will be at Stand and Deliver, which will probably be Jordynne Grace, and I think they'll have Jada Parker compete on the following Tuesday afterwards on NXT.
Seems like a sensible shout, to be fair.
I think they're going to go. I think Jordynne Grace is going to win this as well. Sorry, I didn't even give my prediction.
That's fine. Roy asking if Jordynne Grace is babyface or heel. Babyface.
Yeah, babyface kind of tweener though. Like I don't know. She's coming across quite heelish in some things she says, but she's definitely meant to be a babyface.
Yeah, she's meant to be a babyface, but yeah, it would be interesting to see. Her celebration was very interesting after the fact that Cora Jade was legitimately injured, but I suppose she's trying to play kayfabe, I guess, with that by celebrating the victory. Yeah. It is your job.
Unfortunately, Cora Jade suffering another. Well, apparently it's not too bad according to her ex post, but something to do with her knee again. So hopefully it's not as bad. But we've said before that she has to stay injury free now, because I think this is a really important time for Cora Jade in her wrestling career. Because if she fails to stay fit, I think it's going to really hinder her career.
It seems to be at this point, indeed. CD says Jordynne Grace wins this. Roxanne Perez on his way out of NXT to feel that way. And Roy does say that Becky Lynch has reportedly signed a new contract with WWE. That is true. She will be back at some point. It's just a matter of when, not if. And that is why I keep predicting it for every big show that's coming up. And at this rate, I think that the best prediction I have now is the Raw after WrestleMania. It doesn't feel like she's going to be returning at the moment. But we'll move on to match 4. We're going to be talking about the dream match here. Fraxiom versus the Hardy Boyz. It's for the TNA Tag Team Championship. I suppose this one comes down to a simple one of two things here. Does the Hardy Boyz simply retain, as it's only for the TNA Tag Team Championships? Or do Fraxiom do the unthinkable and we get the first crossover of these two brands working together, and someone from the other brand holds one of the other brand's titles? Could you see a world where Fraxiom become TNA Tag Team Champions?
I'm going to be bold and make that prediction and say Fraxiom win these TNA Tag Team Championships. I think for the shock and awe factor, I think them guys winning them tag team titles would be a massive moment in WWE history. For them to win a rival company's tag team, it's exactly the same as the Invasion when The Rock won the World Heavyweight Championship back in the day, when we had these crossovers of titles, and like the shock and awe of when people won the other brands' championships. And this is a perfect moment. It's probably going to be a Hardy retain, but I want Fraxiom to win it. If anything, if Fraxiom win, it'll probably be a screwy finish anyway. But I like the idea that Fraxiom continue to be NXT Tag Team Champions, and if they are going to lose a Tag Team Championship, it would be the TNA ones at some point. The only thing is that I'm not too sure on the TNA tag team division side. I don't know what the deal is over there, who they've got, how it's going over there. Because the only other thing I could see them is Fraxiom losing them TNA titles to another NXT team.
Interesting. I mean, the things I can say is that when it comes to TNA Sacrifice, which is their next pay-per-view, Jeff Hardy is in a singles match going against Moose for the X Division Championship in a ladder match, and Matt Hardy is going to be in a 10-man tag team match. So they will not be defending those tag team championships regardless of the result on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's just reassured my pick now. Thanks for that. That's all I needed. Now I'm going with Fraxiom to win.
So, I mean, it is bold. My opinion is, though, if you were going to do this where one company wins another company's title first, I think it does more for the relationship if it's a TNA wrestler that wins an NXT title first. I think because of the fact here, we have an opportunity for Fraxiom to win TNA Gold. We have Cora Jade, if she is well enough to win TNA Gold in the next week. I just feel like it becomes very much that NXT is better than TNA, and I think that that's just the thing that is a message that, of course, WWE will send out. They did it during the Royal Rumble. Joe Hendry, this is a different ball game. You're eliminated in 90 seconds. However, I do feel like at the
Roman
same
Reigns.
time, it was by Roman Reigns, absolutely. It was
Different
still
wrestler.
reminded this is a different level. There are levels to this game, but I'm going to predict the Hardy Boys are going to retain here. I just don't see this happening just yet, if I'm being brutally honest. And I think it's a dream tag team match. Who's the best tag team in the world? Fraxiom can make the claim that they are the best team right now in the world, because I think they are. However, of all time, it is the Hardy Boys, and I think that sometimes, you know, they will have extra tricks up their sleeves with the experience factor that Fraxiom just may not be completely aware of. And I want to make a little bold pick here that this will be the starting point of the breakdown of Fraxiom's NXT Tag Team Champions, because I think a main roster call up for them as a team is coming. So I think if they lose this match, that is the first real big L on their resume. And I think then it could go and follow them into Stand and Deliver. They lose their momentum and they lose those titles. And before you know it, they're on a Raw or a SmackDown.
It's not a bad shout. The only thing is, obviously, they're meant to be doing something with the Hardys on main roster. So that are they going to take those TNA tag team titles onto main roster? So I don't know, man. I do see at some point someone has to do it. I think with the tag team, if you do it with the tag team titles instead of like a women's or men's singles title, there's damage limitations to tag team titles. Whereas with a world championship, it's like your world champion isn't on your show anymore. It's on a completely different show. It's being represented by a completely different brand. So whereas with the tag team titles, it's not as bad if it's not on the show.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You mentioned about the Hardy Boys, by the way, potentially being involved in a main roster program of some description. I'd like to ask you if you could look at the main roster right now of WWE's tag team division, who you'd most like to see them go against.
Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. I think that the honestly, for as not as pushed as well as what they should be. I think their character work is great, and I think if you have their really heelish, scummy type of tactic, especially Grayson Waller, I think he's a great heel. You put him up against the Hardys, I think that the dynamic will just work really well. Something new, Street Profits against the Hardys. That sounds like that'd be a really killer match, especially when you've got Montez Ford and Jeff Hardy, both risky high flyers. I think that could be really exciting. And even War Raiders, man, put them against the Hardys. Like, there's loads of teams on there you could do. DIY. Man, let's put Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy versus DIY. I want to see Ciampa get Grizzled Ciampa take on Matt Hardy, man. It'd be great.
DIY is my answer. I think that would be the match I would be most excited for. But like you said, there's so many great options there. I mean, Motor City Machine Guns as well. Would be.
I've seen that before.
We've seen it before, but not on a WWE program. We haven't. So that would be quite interesting to see. But there's some great ones out there, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Hardy Boys. Should they do something with the main roster later this year? So you're going Fraxiom, and I'm going the Hardy Boys. We're going different.
Go different on one of them.
We have to, because we'll see if we win on the last one in a couple of moments' time. But let's dive into the comments anyway. CD says, my prediction is the Hardy Boys to retain the TNA Tag Team Championships. However, Jeff Hardy does have the X Division Championship match at Sacrifice. If he wins that, then he could lose. Fraser and Axiom, the greatest tag team in NXT. They sure are up there in the conversation. I think they are the greatest tag team in the world right now. I mean, I don't know if I would say all time of NXT.
Yeah, that's what I would say. In pro wrestling right now, they are the greatest tag team. NXT all time, I don't know, because you go against teams like The Ascension, you go against DIY, you go against The Revival, you go against Undisputed Era. There's a lot of all-time tag teams there to put them up against. Don't get me wrong, they're in the same echelon, same sort of, if you're going to have a comment about greatest tag teams, I think they're up there. Whether they're number one or not, I don't think so at this minute.
And also, they are number one in a tag team division that's, I would say,
very lackluster.
very lackluster. Yeah, it'd be interesting how they will fare when they're with the big sharks of Raw and SmackDown, especially SmackDown.
That's a very good point.
Right now, I would like to see how they would fare with that. Sid's suggesting TNA tag teams, by the way. We've got the Colognes. Yeah, they're in TNA. First Class, the Good Hands, the Rascals. There's quite a few teams there in the TNA tag team division right now. I was shocked when I saw the Colognes were back.
The Colognes, really? Like,
yeah.
what are they? Los Matadores back in the day. Where's El Torito, whatever his name was?
Absolutely. Oh, WLC classic.
WLC. We need to do it as a watch song. That match is fantastic.
We will one day for sure. Would you like to see Spitfire show up in NXT, and who would you have them face? Yes, but I think the problem with that is that the NXT women's tag team titles no longer exist. So you need to have the WWE women's tag team champions come down to NXT to make something of that. So if they're going to go against anyone in the meantime, it would be Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, I guess. I'm not too keen on Zarya and Sol Ruka, to be honest, as a pairing. I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, I think for me it's presentation, because it does just look like post-apocalyptic warrior and surfer. So that's the thing for me, is the presentation thing. I think once they start wearing matching gear or something, I'd be a lot more content with those two. But don't TNA have a women's tag team division?
They do, yes. Knockouts tag team division, yes. With the Spitfire have been multiple time champions.
Maybe that's something they can bring over to NXT instead of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships.
Interesting. That's an idea. Roy says, will we see Jordynne Grace return to TNA in the crossover? Never say never.
Yeah, she's been there for years. There's no point now. I want AJ to go back. I don't know if his interview with Chris Van Vliet came out today/yesterday, and he talks about he wants to do it. And dude, why not, man?
I would love to see it. I'm halfway through that interview. Unfortunately, my work journey wasn't long enough, so.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours long, man.
It's a long interview. You should get through them in one journey, but so that one's going to have to go for a 2-dayer. Eric says, how are we? We're doing well, Eric. Thank you for joining us. Hope you are keeping well. And of course, the system are part of the TNA Tag Team Division as well. Let's dive in then with the main event match then of the show then. And of course, it's going to be for the NXT Championship. Of course, it's crossover again with NXT versus TNA. It is NXT champion Oba Femi going against the TNA X Division champion Moose. This is a dream match. Two Nigerian warriors, in the words of Oba Femi, going against one another on this show. Of course, Moose has come out and said that Oba Femi can be the ruler of NXT, but he won't be the champion. Of course, Moose has destroyed Lexus King, of course, last week, and Oba Femi has been a very dominant champion so far. And this one, like you said, this is a match you have said you specifically have wanted to see for a long time since this started to become a thing of NXT and TNA. So this is dream match territory. How buzzing are you that we're finally going to get it a Roadblock here?
Absolutely. I mean, we said it. We've said it for ages that Moose is one of them guys that never made it to WWE. He was kind of like a TNA loyalist and stayed with them. And then ever since they announced this partnership, because it's been effectively I know the partnership's only been going for a year, but it's been 2 years really since Jordynne Grace first come into the Rumble. It's kind of just an as and when with Moose. Like, why has he never been in there sooner? And at the minute, Oba Femi for me is kind of on carrying cross territory in NXT. Like, he's the biggest guy. There aren't that many people that can physically stand across the ring from him and be considered a legitimate contender for that world title. So Moose is the perfect fit for this. And the fact that his title isn't on the line is a minor detail. I think it's just a great fact to see Moose competing for a WWE championship.
You make a lot of valid points there, to be fair. And obviously, yeah, I mean, like, Moose is protected in this regardless of the result here. And as CD said, they announced this as title for title, but they changed it very fast. I can't imagine why. Either NXT doesn't want Oba Femi losing in general, or they don't want him losing twice. Because if you win a title, you have to lose it later down the line. So it's interesting to see what they will do here with this one. But yeah, it's a dream match territory. It's two big dudes that are very good at what they do. I think they're going to make a spectacle here of this match. Keeping it short for you, I think Oba Femi, of course, is going to be the one to retain his title here, but I think Moose is going to do a solid job in putting him over. And I think Moose is one of those guys. We see Jordan Grace do it last year, came and impressed WWE. WWE maximized Joe Hendry with probably the peak of his overness. I think that Moose is another one of those people that could shine in NXT with the time he's given and could be someone that could be quite welcome back on multiple occasions.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is going to be like they're going to try and put on a show and make it look like Oba Femi's toughest match to date, and I think that's the key point: is make it look like Oba Femi is going to struggle to win this one, and I can already see that they're going to get a standing ovation at the end. We're going to get a handshake between them, but there's going to be a sign of respect. But just like it's all about building Oba Femi up, and Moose is that guy that just he's so protected anyway, and it's very rarely Moose actually loses, and this is one of the few times that he can take a loss because Oba Femi is such a beast and such a tank that it's not going to affect his like win-loss ratio at all.
Absolutely. Moose is no stranger to losing to people from other companies. If we can remember, he did take on Kenny Omega back in the day for the Impact World Championship in the Jacksonville setup for AEW Dynamite back in the day. So I think it was during the pandemic as well, during that time period where there was no fans. But I completely agree with the sentiments you made there. Very well said of how I think this match will be played out. I think Moose is going to look strong, but he ultimately will lose in defeats. And I don't see personally anyone coming for Oba Femi on this show, just purely because next week after Roadblock, it's 2 weeks time from here, we have NXT Underground making a return. It'll be Trick Williams versus Eddie Thorpe. I expect Trick Williams will pick up the win in that, and I think we will eventually get the big match that we all, I suppose, expect for Stand and Deliver, which will be Oba Femi versus Trick Williams.
Yeah, that gives me loser leaves NXT kind of vibes, and that's Trick Williams' farewell tour out of NXT, that one.
Does seem quite likely indeed. Let's dive into the comments one last time then before we wrap things up here today. We have here that Roy says, hope Moose wins. Not a fan of Oba Femi. Completely flipped the coin. OCD says, my favorite wrestler in NXT. He's the next big thing. That is one Oba Femi. Well, massive thank you to everyone in the comments. If you could do us a massive big favor, hit that like button. It really helps the channel a long way. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. If you're watching on delay, thank you for taking time to listen to our predictions podcast on NXT Roadblock 2025. It should be a big one next week. Looking forward to the show. And of course, massive thank you to the guy next to me, NX Steve, as well, for discussing all things. I mean, the clue's in the name, NX Steve. He's here to discuss NXT. Dude, massive thank you.
Dude, always a pleasure, man. Yeah, it's I know it's not really a pay-per-view, but it's a special show, and like as soon as they announced Stephanie versus Giulia, it was kind of like, well, I think we need to do a predictions for this one. So yeah, it's good to get it done.
I think we're going to struggle to find WWE predictions videos after this until WrestleMania. So we have to take the ones we can get when we can get them. So Roadblock felt like a perfect opportunity for sure. But Sid asking one last question before we do wrap up today says, does TNA have a say in creative when the wrestlers go into WWE? I'm sure they get like a little bit. There has to be some form of agreement that their talent isn't completely, let's say, embarrassed on WTV, but yeah, I don't think they get the say in the final word of who wins and who loses. I think it's a case of, well, they're going to WWE, they get to pick the decision, but I think both sides have a bit of, let's say, a handshake on how that appearance will go. But yeah, I don't say that they don't get any major say in it.
They get as much say in it as WWE does when their superstars go to TNA.
Sounds perfect. You've summed up a lot quicker and a lot better than I did. CD, thank you for the kind words there. Thank you all. Look after yourselves and each other. And we look forward to seeing you for the next one. And yes, we will have lots of videos on the way on the road to WrestleMania. So keep an eye out for those. And hopefully AEW predictions for Revolution will be dropping tomorrow or Friday. Thanks for watching. See you for the next one.